I'm Michael Turner, and I've written this book called Sir Francis Drake and the Golden Hind. We've sold 2,900 copies, and I'd like to tell you about the real Golden Hind, Sir Francis Drake's ship. And what we'll do is I'll take a section out of my book and read it to you. This booklet deals with Sir Francis Drake, is a brief outline of his life. Then there's a very detailed piece about the real Sir Francis Drake. I've culled descriptions about the man from people who knew him and illustrated in chronological order from my trips around the world. I think I've invented a way of writing about the world voyage by putting it into a table where I've got every place the ship anchored or saw during the voyage that was recorded, every event and the month and the dates. Then I go into saying all we know about the Golden Hind, where it is located today. For the third time, I've now had to publish a list of the crew, and uniquely I've written down everything that was seen aboard the real Golden Hind. So what we'll do, we'll walk the length of the ship, and I'll read the piece that I've compiled from the notes furnished by Susan Jackson, Nuña de Silva, Drake's prisoner, and Dr. John Sugden. The only alternative contemporary spelling was Hind, H-Y-N-D. Some biographers have implied that the ship was built in France, but this is a misconception. It arose from a comment articulated by Drake's Portuguese captive pilot Nuña de Silva that she was built of French design. The Golden Hind was possibly an early raised-built galleon. This entailed a reduction in height of the forecastle and poop deck with a narrower beam in proportion to the length of the hull. The Plymouth Black Book records her keel was laid at Coxside 1576. Records in the Public Records Office, the PRO, show that Drake received a government grant for building a ship for the realm. De Silva viewed her fit for warfare, a good sailor, a responsive vessel to her rudder, remaining watertight when running before the wind, although she shipped water abeam in high seas. Her tackle and masts were more robust than the norm, because double sails could be raised to capitalize from wind astern. Her hull was stout and double sheathed as a defense against rot. The 7 armed portholes along each side accommodated her armament of 13 bronze and 5 cast iron guns. Spanish prisoners were impressed by her agility and speed. To the fascinated Elizabethans, the Golden Hind was a symbol of pride in their maritime achievements. For centuries later, she is somewhat enigmatic. That's 4 centuries later, she's an enigma. This is because Elizabethan shipwrights tended to build without the aid of plans, but more by rule of thumb. However, the Golden Hind is illustrated in detail on the contemporary Hondius broadside and crudely depicted on the Nicola van Sype and Mellon maps. Notwithstanding, her dimensions remain speculative. Contemporary chronicles record her tonnage from 100 to De Silva's 220 tons. Some Spanish prisoners wildly estimated her tonnage as 300 to 400 tons. This was no doubt to cover up their ineptness in defending themselves against Drake's raid upon their vessels in the Pacific Ocean on the world voyage. However, in the 16th century, there was no standard formula for calculating tonnage. Indeed, it was often estimated by using different methods of assessment within each country, which vary between countries. We can best examine the ship's scope of dimensions from a document in the PRO, Public Records Office, that recorded a cost of £370 for a dock designed to preserve her. It proposed a perimeter wall of 180 feet and a breadth of the dock to be 24 feet to facilitate a walkway around the ship. These dimensions have prompted several authors to calculate the approximate dimensions of the ship. And the best ones I've come across include Ray Acker. He said the ship was 80 feet in length, the keel was 57 feet, the width was 22 feet, Depth was 11 feet and tonnage 120.
Yes, indeed.
Initially, the Golden Hind was a tourist attraction serving as a hospitality suite and a tavern. The authorities searched the ship at least once for being one of the secret and unsuspected places where meat was illegally eaten during Lent. Shakespeare's contemporary and friend, playwright Ben Jonson, in a play, refers to having a meal aboard the Golden Hind, the ship in which Sir Francis Drake hath encircled the world, where we shall make merry and give toast to a successful voyage. Now, a lack of knowledge about wood preservation and weathering eventually caused the Golden Hind to decay. In 1618, the Venetian ambassador to the court of King James I compared the rotting ship to a bleached skeleton of a dead horse. Thanks to John Davies of Camberwell, keeper of the naval stores at Deptford dockyard, who in 1662 commissioned the Golden Hind chair to be made from some of the ship's remaining timbers, which he presented to the Bodleian Library in Oxford, which you can still see today. At least 3 other similar chairs existed. A table fashioned from the ship's forehatch can be seen in the Middle Temple at the Inns of Court in London. In 1668, the decayed ruins of the hull were buried. Between 1577 and 1580, this was the second ship to circumnavigate the world and the first to reach Cape Horn. On the 1st or the 4th of April 1581 at Sayes Court, Deptford, Queen Elizabeth had the most extravagant banquet since the time of Henry VIII. She then boarded the Golden Hind, which was moored on the River Thames. For political expedience, the Queen had Drake knighted by the French ambassador on the main deck in view of a jubilant crowd. Queen Elizabeth consecrated his ship as a memorial, and according to John Stowe, in the Chronicles, reprinted in 1592, ordered his ship to be drawn up in a little creek near Deptford upon the Thames to be preserved for all posterity. Another contemporary commentator, William Camden, in his Annals of England 1615, which he began writing in 1596, adds that the ship was lodged in a dock. Oppenheim, in a history of the Royal Navy, wrote that the ship was placed in a dock and filled with earth. In the Navy accounts, only £35, 8 shillings and sixpence, was expanded for a wall of earth around her in 1624, when a new wharf was constructed, most likely building a new wooden wall on the outside of the original. And that is where the ship has decayed. And I'm telling you, if you want to look for the Golden Hind, it's going to be in Convoys Wharf, where those step stairs are seen on the edge of the river, because that was the creek which divided Lewisham and Deptford. It's a zigzag line which makes no sense today, but it did follow a creek, and that's where you should look if you want to find the Golden Hind. And it's Michael Turner, hoping that you have learnt a lot from the narrative that's just been recorded. Thank you.